Why nothing in the universe is truly random. The Buddhist teaching. Not chaos, but condition. A leaf drifts quietly down from a tree. A stranger smiles at you on the street. A sudden idea flashes into your mind when you least expect it. Our lives are full of these small, fleeting moments. They arrive without warning, vanish without trace. And we often call them chance. We call them luck, sometimes good, sometimes bad. It can feel like we're just passengers in a world of endless randomness, a universe that moves without purpose, without pattern. But what if this feeling is only the surface of something deeper? What if this seeming randomness is not the true nature of reality, but only a shadow of a law too subtle to see? Thousands of years ago, beneath the stillness of a Bodhi tree, the Buddha saw into this law. Not with belief, but with direct, clear vision. He wasn't inventing a system. He was waking up to the way life actually works. What he saw was not chaos, but connection. Not disorder, but a living, breathing web where nothing stands alone. In this web, everything leans on everything else. A single tree in an open field may struggle against the wind. But in a forest, trees hold each other. Their roots touch, intertwine, and form a shared world. A shelter no single tree could build alone. No tree creates the forest by itself. But without each tree, the forest could not be. This is the nature of existence. Not separation, but mutual support. Not independence, but interdependence. And this isn't just philosophy. It's life. Think of this. A child's quiet smile on a train gently softens a stranger's heart. That stranger, carrying heavy sorrow, decides, just for today, not to end their life. They go home. They live. And the child never even knows. What seemed like a random smile was actually the meeting of countless invisible threads. The Buddha expressed this truth with beautiful simplicity. When this is, that is. From the arising of this, that arises. When this is not, that is not. From the ceasing of this, that ceases. This is not poetry. This is the structure of reality. A flame cannot burn without air. A sound cannot exist without vibration. A single event does not appear from nowhere. Every moment arises because conditions support it. Nothing exists on its own. This insight is not only Buddhist. In ancient Greece, the philosopher Heraclitus saw the same living truth. He wrote, "Everything flows. No man ever steps in the same river twice." He saw that reality is not made of static pieces, but of ever-shifting processes. A river is always changing, yet it flows according to gravity, terrain, and time. There is law within movement, order within change. Both the Buddha and Heraclitus saw something most of us overlook. That beneath the surface of chaos lies a quiet order, not mechanical, not rigid, but alive. Not a universe of accidents, but a subtle dance of conditions, each step giving rise to the next. This is not fate, and it is not randomness. It is something else, something far more powerful. A pattern of interdependence that responds, echoes, and reflects. A pattern we can come to see. A law we can awaken to. Everything changes. Nothing stands alone. What kind of order is this world made of? It's not the kind we usually imagine. Not like a blueprint carved in stone. or a set of gears turning with cold precision. The Buddha's insight reveals something different. Order does not mean rigidity. It means rhythm. It means flow. A living, moving harmony that follows natural principles, yet never repeats itself in exactly the same way. Think of a river. It's always moving, always changing. It rushes, it rests. It flows around rocks, bends with the land, responds to gravity, to rain, to sun. No drop of water ever follows the exact same path. And yet, it is still a river. It doesn't forget its nature. It flows because flow is what it is. This is what we call dynamic order, not a fixed script, but a pattern that breathes, a quiet intelligence within change. The Buddha saw this clearly and named it anicca, impermanence. Nothing stays the same, not the body, not the mind, not the world. Every breath is a letting go of the last. Every moment is the end of one form and the birth of another. The cells in your body, the thoughts in your mind, the emotions in your heart, all of them shift, rise, fall, disappear. This constant change is not a flaw in the design. It is the very condition that makes growth, learning, healing, and awakening possible. If everything were fixed, nothing could respond. If nothing responded, nothing could connect. And if nothing connected, nothing could live. From this truth of impermanence arises another truth, one of the most radical and liberating ideas in the Buddha's teaching: anatta, or not self. If everything is always changing, how could there be a permanent me inside it all? Look at a wave on the ocean. It rises, moves, dissolves. It has shape, beauty, force, but no separate identity. A wave is not something apart from water. It's just a temporary expression of it. The shape comes and goes, but the ocean remains. And so it is with what we call self. What we call me is not a fixed thing. It's a stream, a flowing combination of memories, feelings, thoughts, habits, perceptions, shifting endlessly. There is no hidden core behind it all, no unmoving center. This may sound unsettling at first, but it's the very ground of freedom. If there were a fixed self, then every mistake, every trauma, every scar would define you forever. You would be trapped inside your identity, like a fly in amber. But you're not, because you are not a thing. You are a process. And that means you can change, you can grow, you can let go, you can become. As the Buddha said in the Anguttara Nikaya, just as a skilled goldsmith shapes gold, melting and refining it again and again, so too can the mind be shaped. To realize this deeply, not just as an idea, is the beginning of awakening. Because in this flowing world, there is nothing to cling to, and nothing that needs to be clung to, not even you. And that is not despair. That is release. This is the ground of the path, not control, not identity, but openness. A freedom that flows with the river instead of trying to dam it. Karma in a complex world. Sometimes the smallest thing changes everything. A glance, a word, a choice made without fanfare, and suddenly, the course of a life shifts. It feels mysterious. We say, how could something so small matter so much? But that's because we imagine the world as a simple chain of cause and effect. One thing leads to another, in a straight, visible line. Reality is not so neat. It's more like a vast ocean of conditions, always moving, always colliding, shaping outcomes in ways far beyond what we can see. Science calls this the butterfly effect. The idea that a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil might eventually help set off a storm in Texas. Not because the butterfly causes the storm, but because it nudges a system already full of tension. The air, the pressure, the clouds, all were waiting for a trigger. The butterfly's wings were one more whisper in a great chorus. This is how dependent origination works in Buddhism. Nothing arises alone. No storm, no thought, no karma, no tear arises without conditions. And most of those conditions are hidden from our eyes. From a distance, it can look like randomness, but it isn't. It's just complexity we cannot yet perceive. Even science admits this. In the world of quantum physics, particles appear to behave unpredictably. They seem to jump, vanish, reappear without cause. But many physicists believe this only looks random, because we haven't yet found the deeper forces underneath. Some propose hidden variable theories, suggesting that behind every seeming chaos, there are still laws, still patterns, still causes. Science maps the visible. The Buddha points to the invisible threads weaving through all. One traces the forms, the other reveals the flow. They are not in conflict. They illuminate different layers of the same mystery. The Buddha never denied this complexity, but he offered a way through it, not by solving every unknown, but by teaching us to act with wisdom. It is intention, monks, that I call 𝐿𝐴𝐻. Having intended, one acts through body, speech, and mind. Anguttara Nikaya. Karma, or karma, is not fate. It's not cosmic punishment or reward. It is intention. It is the energy of choice. When you think with care, when you speak with honesty, when you act with kindness, those choices ripple outward. Not always in ways you can see, not always immediately, but they shape the world nonetheless. And the same is true in reverse. Harmful intentions, even small ones, plant seeds that can grow into suffering, for yourself and for others. So what does this mean for us? It means we are not powerless, but we are also not in control. There is a deep difference between control and influence. Imagine a sailor on the sea. The sailor cannot control the wind. They cannot order the ocean to be calm. But with skill, they can set the sails. With attention, they can read the sky. They don't command the sea, but they collaborate with it. And in that collaboration, they move forward. This is how karma works. You don't control the outcome, but you create the conditions. Your intention is the seed. Your action is the planting. The result, joyful or painful, is the fruit that grows. But it grows not in isolation. It grows in the weather of your life, in the climate of your habits, your relationships, your history. This is why results are not always immediate and not always visible, but they are never lost. The Buddha said, "No deed, however small, is ever wasted. Just as a tiny spark can burn a mountain of grass, a single act of clarity can change the direction of a life." So, you are not a puppet pulled by fate, and not a god who commands the sky. You are something more human and more profound. A gardener sowing seeds in a storm, a sailor charting a path through changing winds. You cannot predict every result, but you can always choose your next step. And that, the Buddha taught, is where freedom begins. The space between, where freedom begins. If everything is made of causes, if every thought, every storm, every sorrow has its seed, then what about us? If we are part of this great web, where is our freedom? Are we just threads in a net, woven without choice? Are we merely echoes of the past? The Buddha's answer is clear and quietly revolutionary. You are not trapped. Yes, you are shaped by causes, but you are also a cause. Right here, in this breath, you can change the pattern. Imagine this. You feel anger rising. It burns in the chest, narrows the eyes. Before you know it, a sharp word is on your tongue. But then, something pauses. A breath, a gap, a space. And in that space, something ancient becomes possible. Viktor Frankl, a man who survived the unimaginable cruelty of a concentration camp, once wrote, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom." This insight touches the very heart of the Buddha's path. In Pali, the Buddha called it sati, mindfulness. But it's not just being present. It is seeing, clear, tender, awake. The liberation of the mind comes from seeing, the Buddha said. Not from fighting anger, not from suppressing fear, but from seeing them as they are, changing, conditional, not me. In that clear seeing, the self begins to soften. Anger is no longer my anger. It is just a wave. You don't drown in it. You witness it. And in witnessing, you are no longer bound. This is not the freedom of kings. It is not the power to bend the world to your will. It is a different kind of freedom. The power to respond wisely inside the flow. The French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre said, "Man is condemned to be free." For him, freedom was a weight, a burden we cannot escape. Every choice exposes us. Every refusal to choose is still a choice. But the Buddha saw freedom differently. He saw it not as a sentence, but as a path. Not a weight on the shoulders, but a door in the mind that opens with awareness. Sartre saw choice as an existential curse. The Buddha saw it as an existential release. You are not a blank canvas waiting to be painted. You are the painter. Brush in hand, stroke by stroke, shaping your own direction. And this is where responsibility meets compassion. Because once you know you are free to choose, you also see this. So is everyone else. Every person you meet is not just reacting. They are choosing, within their own limits, within their own storms. And so, we meet not as victims, but as fellow travelers, each shaping a path through the same changing world. Your freedom, then, is not loud. It does not shout. It is quiet, like a still pond reflecting the sky. It is humble, like a breath taken before speaking. But it is there, and it is real. So know, your life is not already written, but it is also not a blank page. It is a living story. And this moment, this very one, is the pen in your hand. The law that sets you free. If all that we've seen is true, if the universe moves not by chance but by conditions, then a deeper question emerges. Not just how things happen, but why this order exists at all. Why is this web of cause and effect here? What does it mean for us? Let's imagine, just for a moment, the opposite. A universe with no order. A world where cruelty sometimes brings joy, and compassion leads to ruin. Where a child's kindness is met with tragedy, and violence goes forever unpunished. Where effort has no weight, and the wheel of life spins with no axle. A world where nothing truly connects. Such a world would be more terrifying than any hell. Not because it's cruel, but because it's meaningless. In that world, liberation would be impossible. Wisdom would have no path. A kind act would be a blind coin toss. There would be no reason to strive, no reason to love, no reason to hope. But that is not our world. The Buddha looked deeply into life and saw, this universe is not random. It responds. It moves with a quiet precision. It follows a pattern, not a rigid design from outside, but a natural flow from within. And that pattern is not a trap. It is the key. Monks, both in the past and now, I teach only two things: suffering and the end of suffering. Why only two things? Because that's all we need. If we understand why suffering arises and how it can end, then we hold the thread that weaves through everything. And that thread is causality. Not a harsh law of punishment, but a gentle, relentless rhythm. Suffering arises because of causes: craving, ignorance, clinging. But because they have causes, they can be seen. And if they can be seen, they can be changed. Cause and effect is not just a map of pain. It is also the doorway out. This is where wisdom becomes action. Imagine a gardener. She studies the seasons. She chooses the seeds carefully. She waters when the sun is soft and pulls weeds before they take root. She is attentive, skillful, patient. And still, the rain may not come, or the wind may tear the tender shoots. But she does not curse the sky. She does her part fully, and then she lets go. This is not weakness. This is equanimity, 𝐿𝐵𝐵𝐻, a strength that comes from seeing clearly that results do not belong to us. Only our effort does. The gardener shapes the field, but she does not command the clouds. Now imagine another gardener, one who ignores the soil, tosses seeds without care, and demands fruit by shouting at the sky. When the crop fails, he blames fate. But the truth is, it was not randomness that failed him. It was ignorance. This is the deep meaning behind the law of karma. You don't control the whole web, but your thread matters. Your action matters. And intention, the seed of it all, is where your freedom begins. You are not a victim, blown by winds you cannot see. You are not a god, shaping the universe by sheer will. You are something rarer and more beautiful. A conscious participant in a lawful, living world. Your thoughts shape tomorrow. Your care ripples outward. Your silence, your kindness, your attention, all of it matters, more than you can measure. The universe responds, not because it judges, but because it moves in harmony. Every act of clarity waters the seeds of awakening in the world's soil. That is the law that sets you free. It is not a rule book. It is a mirror. It reflects what you plant. It echoes what you offer. And it invites you, in every breath, to begin again. So walk the path, not because you are forced, but because you are free. And so the Buddha's final words still shine like a quiet sun. All conditioned things are impermanent. Strive on with diligence. Not because the world is broken, but because it responds. Not because you must, but because you can.